Hi there. This is lesson 2 of our Punnett square, and we're going over Mendelian problems again, some, and then codominant and incomplete dominant. So I mentioned last class that Gregor Mendel was the father of genetics. Um, sorry, he was a monk and mathematician, and he studied thousands of pea plants, and he came up with the basic ideas of simple genetics. Simple dominance and simple recessive. His experience led him to conclude that each trait was controlled by two factors. He performed thousands of experiments with the pea plants over many years, and he noticed that certain traits would appear in one generation and then disappear in the next generation. And then in later generations, the pea plants, within the pea plants, the trait that had disappeared would show up again. Like, what's going on? So some of the laws that he came up with from his observations, we talked about like dominant and recessive last class. That's there. So it's called the law of dominance. And the 7 traits that he tracked showed us a complete dominant pattern. And these are the traits he tracked: like the color, the height, the color of the pea, the texture of the pea. So complete dominance, the dominant allele masks or hides the recessive allele. You only see the recessive phenotype if the genotype for dominance is not there. And so the recessive genotype would say little a, little a. I'm not seeing any big A's there for being dominant. Big A, or big A, little a, they both show a dominant phenotype. They would show the dominant trait. The law of segregation, I had mentioned this when we were setting up our Punnett squares in the last class, but there's 2 copies of each gene on a homologous chromosome. So you get one from each parent. They code for the same exact information, you just get one from each parent. And they may have different variations of that trait, but it would be like this chromosome codes for eye color, and so does that homologous chromosome from another parent, coding for eye color. Doesn't mean they're identical in the color they're coding, it just means that they're coding for the same information. So individual copies are called alleles, and the alleles separate during meiosis. Each parent gives only one for each gene to the offspring. So you get half that information from each parent. They're giving half of their information to you. And this one I also mentioned last class of our Punnett square, the law of independent assortments. This means that those genes or chromosomes, essentially, they can be in whatever order they want. Moms could come first, dads could come first. It just random. We'll do some practice questions here. Phenotype refers to blank of an individual. Physical appearance. Which of the following genotypes is homozygous recessive? Which one homozygous recessive? Those are little t, little t. What does heterozygous mean? They have different alleles for their trait. So far, we've been focusing on complete dominance and Mendelian problems where if they have the dominant gene, then they're going to express it, whether it be big G or big GY. If they have no dominant gene, then that's when they can be the different coloration, the recessive trait. Now we're moving on to incomplete and codominance. These patterns do not show what Mendel's were. So the heterozygous shows something completely different. Incomplete dominance, it's going to be defined as a form of gene interaction in which both alleles of a gene at a locus are partially expressed. often resulting in an intermediate or a different phenotype altogether. That is also known as partial dominant. You can use big A, big A, big A, little a, and little a, little a. Sometimes you'll see that actually use two different letters to code for this. So it could be like R is for red and W is for white. So you have RR. The headers, I guess, would be RW, and the other one would be WW. So the heterozygous no longer shows red, like we saw in Mendel's problems. It shows a blend of the parents' phenotypes, kind of like an in-between. Something incomplete, in between. Not showing red, it's not showing dominance, it's showing pink. Now it's showing that middle color. So big A is not completely dominant over little a. Instead, it makes a whole new coloration. So setting up and solving is pretty similar though. So you put the parents, one on top and one on the side, segregate their alleles, so there's only one up there on each box. Carry those down and across, that's the same. But then when you're counting them up, this is where it's a little different. So we have big A, looking at this Punnett square. We don't have any big A's. And then big A, little a's, we have 4 big A, little a's and 0 little a, little a's. That is our genotype ratio. Now looking at our phenotype ratio, this ratio in this situation and in our codominant situation coming up is actually going to be the same ratio as our genotype ratio. Technically, you don't even have to write it out again because it's going to be the same. Because heterozygous has its own color now, and you don't have to add it in with the homozygous dominant ones. So that's kind of nice. You just write the ratio one time. Now, codominance, not the same as incomplete dominance. This time around, it's going to refer to a type of inheritance of which 2 versions of the alleles of the same gene are expressed separately. And you can actually see both parents' traits being expressed in that offspring. So if we cross a red flower, white flower, the heterozygous ones, RW, are going to be like spotted flowers or striped flowers, red and white. I always think of co-workers, like, or co-parenting, like they're working together to express this trait. So you see both at the same time. Setting them up and solving them is pretty much identical. It's just a matter of what the heterozygous is expressing. So in codominance, you see both parents' traits, but in incomplete dominance, you see neither of their traits. You actually just see a whole new trait, whole new color. So a whole new allele result. Here's some other examples for you. So remember, incomplete dominance, neither allele is dominant. When an organism is heterozygous for a trait, it will show a third phenotype, a whole new phenotype that we didn't see before. So it's going to be, in this situation, we've got a red flower and a yellow flower, and they cross and they make orange flowers. Sometimes you see these problems written as like superscripts, as you can see on those A's, and that just means that like this is the same gene, it's just a different version. So the alleles are written as like little letters instead. And it's just a matter of preference. So now you have practice problems you'll be able to go through, review of vocabulary. And then there's also asking like, is this codominant or is this incomplete? And there's questions about the law of segregation, law of independence, whatnot, like that. So it says some flowers are controlled by codominant. So sometimes I'll tell you exactly, like this is codominant or is this incomplete. Other times you just have to look at the heterozygous and know like, okay, is this a whole new coloration? Or is this showing both parents' traits at the same time, codominance? So it says red flowers, red is big R, big R. Blue flowers is BB. And then you have speckled red and blue flowers, RB. They want you to cross a red flower with a blue flower and then tell the results. I'll help you set this one up. Make your square. So red put RR. And it says it's crossed with a blue flower. So here, blue flower. BB. Carry those across. R down. What are our results? So they're all going to be speckled, 100%. The heterozygous combination for you. This is another down question. Here's an example. Obviously, it's very exaggerated, but a white layer, cross with a black layer, and then make the black and white layers. Is this incomplete or codominant? Like that would be codominant. If it were incomplete, they would actually be gray bears as the heterozygous. So go ahead and practice this, and then let me know if you have any questions. And after class, there are a few different worksheets you can do. And there's questions you can write out on paper if you want to. There's Quizlet vocabulary. And view sister worksheets and videos. And then there's this is a traditional worksheet. So just let me know if you have any questions, and I will talk to you in our next lesson. Bye.